Good Thursday morning. I'm meteorologist Jeff Gerber. It is 10 o'clock and we take our time every day about 10 o'clock. We spend about 15 minutes showing you what the weather's going to be doing. We kind of slow it down and let you see each graphic for a couple of minutes as opposed to a regular weathercast where we only have about 2.5 to 3 minutes to show you everything. We kind of jam it all in there together because we don't have so much time in our newscast. So we slowed things down, let you have a good look at what the weather's going to be doing as we go through the next 7 days. Usually we'll start at about 10 o'clock and we'll go to about 10:15. Also, you can interact with us. We have a phone line that you can text and ask us questions about what you see me talking about. If you have a question while I'm talking, you can text a question to 409-749-9302. Once again, that's 409-749-9302. Or just write this number down, because in other streams that we're going to do, because we do this every day, if you have a question, you'll have the number right there. You can just text me a question, and if you have a question about next week's weather, this weekend's weather, or today's weather, whatever, just you can text it in, and we'll try to answer it for you live here on the stream. And if we can't catch it on the stream, we can catch it maybe later on that day. We can just text you back on the phone itself that we have, or we can catch you the next day on the stream or whatever. But 409-749-9302. If you have a question about the weather, go ahead and text it in, and we'll try to answer that live here on the stream towards the end of the stream. All right, our forecast for the rest of the day, it's going to be a hot one. Temperature's going to be climbing. We're going to be looking at highs around 90 to about 92 today. That's going to come around 2 to 3 o'clock. That's typically when we see our hottest part of the day. As we head towards the evening hours, very warm at 6 o'clock. If you typically go out for your walk or whatever right after work, maybe around 6 or so, we're going to be looking at upper 80s. If you wait till about 7:30, you'll be definitely dealing with temperatures that are a little bit closer to the lower 80s, maybe a little bit more comfortable when we get these afternoon when it's really hot. And then by 10 o'clock, temperature is going to be falling back down into the upper 70s. So it's going to be a very warm evening for sure. And then overnight, we're expecting lows into the middle to lower 70s. So we'll start off in the lower 70s for most of the area going into Friday morning. Our allergy report, once again, looking not the greatest, but I've seen worse. Medium as we go through weed, grass, and mold. And tree pollen, really not a big thing right now. It's at 0. It's been at 0 for the last 3 days or so. But definitely looking at some sniffling and sneezing out there with some of the pollen around. Let's take a couple of minutes. We'll look at a few of our sky cams across southeast Texas. Partly cloudy skies in general across the entire area. This is the view up in Jasper on our Roofing 911 Live Skycam network. This camera brought to you by Provalis as we look at some of the area up there in Jasper. You can see just partly cloudy skies, and that's kind of what we're expecting through the day. If we see any type of rain today, it would be an isolated shower at best. And typically with these little cumulus clouds like we see there in Jasper, you don't see too much in the way of any precipitation from there, just not holding enough water there to really kick off much in the way of anything except maybe a sprinkle here or there. We'll switch over to orange. This is the Horseman's Western Store camera, which is right there on that feeder road off of I-10, and it's literally less than, a half a mile before you reach the Louisiana-Texas state line. So it's right there close to the state line if you've ever been over towards the Horseman's Western Store. Our Roofing 911 Live Skycam network in orange, currently showing 86 degrees, so we're already warming up. We're going to be close to 90 by lunchtime. Humidity right now at about 70%, so it's sticky already out there, that's for sure. And we don't have much of a breeze. We have a little bit of a south to southeasterly wind, anywhere between maybe, say, 4 to 10 miles an hour. So we're not going to see much of a breeze to help you out if you're going to be out working in the garden, walking or something like that. I'll take you to downtown Beaumont. This is our Pack of the Prey camera. Once again, just some general partly cloudy skies across the area. We just look at the Jefferson County Courthouse for this morning on our Skycam network. Currently 86 degrees downtown, humidity at 65%. So once again, it's up there a ways as far as the moisture in the atmosphere, the heat, and that moisture makes it feel very muggy. Once again, we're only seeing a little bit of a south wind, anywhere between about, say, 1 to 5 miles an hour. You can see it's really light. When you get north at 0, that means you got some light winds, but just partly cloudy skies there in downtown. We'll catch one more camera before we move on and look at some actual temperatures. And here's Port Arthur. Once again, just some partly cloudy skies, looking over the intercoastal waterway there on our Roofing 911 Live Skycam network. This particular camera brought to you by Market Basket as we see some cumulus clouds, dry conditions across southeast Texas. Temperature-wise right now, we're into the 80s with except for Kirbyville. I just don't think this number is probably updated yet, but I think most of us are into the 80s right now, anywhere from 81 in Woodville to 82 in Jasper, also Silsbee, 83 right here in Beaumont, also 83 in Port Arthur, officially showing 87 degrees in Orange. Head over into Lake Charles, we're about 85, to Quincy 82, Houston out at the airport there, or just north of town at the airport 87, and Huntsville right now showing a temperature of about 80. So it's warming up pretty quickly. We're expecting to see, like I said, highs around 90 degrees. Radar-wise, very quiet. We don't have anything on radar. And if we see anything today, it'd be one of those very isolated showers, the kind that are just a few out there and they're very far between, not a big deal. Now, they are seeing some rain and thunderstorms up towards Wichita Falls earlier this morning. Looks like this cluster is heading towards the Dallas area. It is weakening though, so it shouldn't pack too much of a punch for the Dallas area when it gets there. Maybe some heavy rainfall for a little bit, some gusty winds, but that's about it. And really, that's kind of the only game in town across the state of Texas. There's not much more in the way of any rain across the state here. It's just that one cluster riding right along the Red River Valley for this morning, and this will continue to push off towards the east. We're not expecting this to drop down into our area like we've seen a few of those do over the last week or so. We should stay dry today, except for, like I said, a couple of isolated showers here and there. Quick look at the rest of the country. West Coast is high and dry. There has been some showers up into looks like northern Arizona, southern Utah for this morning. Also looking at clusters, some thunderstorms through parts of Nebraska, South Dakota for this morning. There's a front extending back down through the Great Lakes, back into parts of Kentucky, Tennessee. They're seeing some showers around the Memphis area for this morning. And then we were talking about a disturbance out into the Atlantic, just off the East Coast. The Hurricane Center at one point had a small chance of maybe some development. Now they're not even discussing it. It's just some rain through the Carolinas this morning, but it looks like there's no development there. Nothing as far as the Hurricane Center is watching right now as far as any development, but looking a little wet though through the Carolinas for this morning. In Florida, not quite as wet as it was earlier this week, but there are a couple of showers in South Florida. So let's look at our future cast. We'll start this off this afternoon around 1 o'clock as we get up into the lower 90s. Like I said, about 90 to 92. Can't rule out something isolated as far as a shower, but less than 10% coverage. This evening around 7 o'clock, we'll be back into the upper 80s. And then by 10 o'clock, we'll see temperatures drop all the way off to around 80 degrees. We'll be near 80, maybe 79, 80 degrees. Overnight, partly cloudy. Expecting to see temperatures back off into the looks like middle to lower 70s. I think these numbers are a little bit too warm for 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. And then tomorrow afternoon, once again, we'll see partly cloudy skies. We'll reach back up into the lower 90s through the afternoon. And once again, if we see anything as far as rain, it'd be a pretty isolated shower. But I don't think we'll get to 94 tomorrow, but 92, 93 is not out of the question across a good portion of the area on your Friday. It's going to be hot. Same deal for Saturday. We'll be up there around 93 degrees. Sunday as well, with rain chances staying fairly low. Let's look out in the tropics, and there's not much going on. There's that little disturbance we were talking about the last couple of days. They're not too worried about it now. Let's look at the Caribbean, not much going on, and the Atlantic's very quiet. There's not a whole lot of activity out there as well. So looks like the next 7 to 10 days, everything's going to be quiet as far as the tropics. And typically this time of year, we really don't see too much activity. It's usually late August, early September, or at least through the middle part of September. That's when we see the hurricane season really start to peak up there as far as numbers of storms or activity. And typically September 10th or 11th, that's the peak of hurricane season when we see our most activity out in the Atlantic or into the Caribbean or Gulf. So right now pretty quiet. Hopefully it'll stay that way for the next couple of months. And even when we get to the peak, we'll hopefully see things stay out of the Gulf of Mexico this year. We'll have to wait and see. The forecast this year is for an average season. That means about 12, 14 storms, something like that. So we'll have to see how that pans out. Yes, last year they had a lot of storms forecasted. We didn't get as many as they were thinking we were going to get. So hopefully this year they're forecasting a little bit high and we won't see too many storms out here, but we'll have to wait and see how it pans out when we get into the thick of hurricane season. Coastal marine forecast for today. Speaking of the Gulf, south winds at 5 to 10 knots, seas only about 1 to 2 feet. Next high tide is going to be tomorrow because the last one for today is at 11:51. Oh, I guess we'll have one a little bit later on this morning, and then we won't see any more until tomorrow. Duh. Sunset tonight's at about 8:15. Water temperature about 83 there into the Gulf. Winds right now off Texas Point anywhere out of the southeast 8 to 9 miles per hour. Just a light chop on the inlet lakes and bays, and generally partly cloudy skies along the coast. All right, our forecast for today, we're looking at numbers right there around the lower 90s. Like I said, about 91, maybe 92. Isolated shower possible but not expected. Southeastern winds at 5 to 10 with partly cloudy skies. And then for tonight, also partly cloudy skies across southeast Texas, light south winds, and we'll look at middle to lower 70s, around 71 towards Burkeville, 72 Jasper, Newton, Kirbyville, and then as you get down a little bit closer maybe to Warren or Koontz, you're looking at 73, 74. Around the triangle here, about 75 or so. And then down towards the coast, we can be as warm tomorrow morning towards Sabine Pass, about 77, 78. All right, our 7-day forecast shows dry conditions Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Not looking at too much activity there. Temperatures around 92, 93 for Saturday, 93 for Sunday. Put in a slight chance of rain on Sunday at 20%. And then as we get past Sunday, that's when the weather turns, looks like fairly wet. We'll go 40% on Monday, 60% on Tuesday, and then 40% on Wednesday. So definitely some wet weather going into next week. Could get pretty heavy on Tuesday as far as maybe some heavier rainfall. Between Monday through Wednesday, 1, maybe 2 inches of rainfall through the area. The bulk of that activity is probably going to be typically during the afternoons. Speaking of next week, I think we have one question here about the weather next week. Let me pull it up here. Yeah. Question on our phone saying starting swimming lessons on Monday, and they want to know if the whole day on Monday is going to be wet. And is it going to likely be severe weather, strong thunderstorms, or is it going to be just generally some rain? Typically on Monday, it looks like it's going to be probably afternoon, evening. So if you're going to be doing some swim lessons or something like that or just some outdoor activities on Monday, if you can do it in the morning, you'll probably be okay. Most of the day should be, or most of the morning should be fairly dry. It's the afternoons that we're expecting showers and thunderstorms. And I don't think we're not looking at really severe weather, but there could be some thunderstorms out there with a little bit of lightning, some gusty winds. But like I said, not planning on anything as far as any real severe weather as we get into Monday. So morning I think will be okay. The afternoons, I think the trick is just watching out for maybe a few lightning strikes here and there and some scattered rain here and there. And then we have another question coming in, and it's just a general question about hurricane season. They're asking, how does hurricane season look for this year? And I kind of touched on that a little bit earlier. Hurricane season basically looking like an average year, 12 to 14 storms possibly. And where they develop, if that's the question, is where are the storms going to develop, and if they affect the U.S., where exactly in the U.S. are we going to be seeing these hurricanes move on shore, if we have any at all? We'll have to wait and see how they pop up this year. You know, it only takes one hurricane in your area or overhead to make it a horrible hurricane season. I mean, the year that we had Harvey, that was the only storm we had, at least here in southeast Texas, and that was a horrible hurricane season. So it only takes one storm to make it a horrible hurricane season. But the season looks like it's going to be on average on whole, so we'll have to wait and see how it pans out this year. You know, a lot of folks make forecasts for the hurricane season, and not necessarily are they good forecasts. I've seen them forecast a lot of storms. We hardly